Too much sunlight, guys. Too much sunlight. Okay, let's just get this out of the way, okay? Now, the reason why there is no episode 23, or the reason why people believe that I skipped episode 23, is a solemn fact is because YouTube is just weird, okay? YouTube is solemnly weird, and I have no control over it. The powers that be are the ones who are the real publishers. Which is ridiculous because YouTube itself is nothing more but a video platform for publishers to push their works on the interwebs. Nothing more, nothing less. Now, this also defeats the narrative of saying that, well, obviously you did something wrong, so what can we do to, put your works on the interwebs so this will never happen again? I completely ask myself that same question, but I keep on getting the same response. No matter what I do when it comes down to editing, and no matter what I try to say, it always reverts back to the same narrative. The reason why my video was blocked is because it had the word murder in it. I shit you not. Episode 23 was taken down because it had the word murder in it. Alright, let me explain even more. Well, hopefully this video doesn't get taken down just because it has the actual word murder in it. Or it happens to be an affliction to the G word, Germans. Germans in World War II. That's what everyone in the community doesn't like in general. I really don't know why. Maybe they hate history. That's probably it. They probably just hate history. Now, I don't blame them for just being a publisher or them trying to push their own narrative altogether, but this is the same reason why I'm doing this in the first place. Because number one, I love history, okay? I love history, I love World War II, and I love pushing content about World War II, and as well as airsoft as well. I mean, this is a good synthesis for me to actually push content that I'm really, really passionate about, okay? I really am. I'm doing my best too, guys. So that's one of the, so just to get it out straight, the only reason why episode 23 is not on is because it has the word murder in it. Now let me explain the reason why. I was merely talking about how the Soviet Union contributed into the murder of several thousands of German POWs during World War II and even after World War II. The numbers are completely horrendous, and these numbers themselves should be attributed to how the failure of communism contributes into the loss of life. I mean, most notably, 100 million lives have been lost because communism has been implemented throughout an entire century and has never worked. The same too can be said in the treatment of prisoners of war during World War II. Now, for the Germans, they completely follow the Geneva Accords, the very rule set that dictates on the behavior of the soldiers who are taken in prisoners of war, whether they be treated honorably or disrespected. Obviously, under the Geneva Accords, all prisoners of war are to be treated with all the respect and privileges like they were supposed to be given on the battlefield. The Germans literally treated everybody with decency and respect while the prisoners of war were in the custodies of the Germans during that time. It's not historical myth or historical inaccuracy. It is historically accurate. Just look up the reports of the Red Cross. I mean, people will try to say that, well, the Red Cross was racist back then, and the Red Cross during back then was was pro-German. You can make all the counter arguments as you want, but that's not going to change the fact that Germany did treat their prisoners of war with respect. Unlike the Soviet Union, hell, Charles Lindbergh, famous American aviator, once said that of all the war crimes that were attributed to World War I, none were more deadlier and more vulgar than those that were committed by the Soviet Union. I mean, hell, this was a faction that was in league with the Western Allies during that time. Like I said again, the Germans themselves treated every single one of their prisoners of war with decency and respect, uncompared to the Soviet Union. Hell, they committed more war crimes in general on their march to their way to Berlin. I mean, it's crazy to actually believe that, but in reality, this is just something that hasn't been touched or even been seen due to historical nature. I mean, most importantly of all, I really don't believe that people actually know this, especially when it comes down to government school. I really don't. They really, really don't. What else? Oh yes, I also touched up on how the French, after World War II, also used German POWs for slave labor. I mean, well, both the Soviet Union and the Western Allies are more as guilty to actually use prisoners of war for slave labor after World War II. Hell, after World War II as well, some thousands of German POWs weren't even allowed to go home until 1945. 10 years after World War II was over. That's by far the most brutal treatment of prisoners of war that I've ever known in my entire life. Especially when I read about this information back in after high school, actually. It was too good to believe. It was too radical to believe as well. I mean, even right now, it's difficult to believe. So the main narrative I'm trying to push is the fact that, yes, both sides, the Western Allies and as well as the Soviet Union, are completely guilty of the mistreatment of prisoners of war during that time. And hell, in some cases, the Germans were also guilty of mistreating prisoners of war after World War II. But that does not negate the fact that the Germans completely abide to the Geneva Accords at the beginning and in the end of World War II. Something that is completely disregarded because, you know, they're the Germans, they're the enemy. You have to have a really good enemy, especially if you're fighting a war. So that's the video that I've been trying to put on, and most importantly of all, it's something that I'm really passionate about, and the Germans themselves have been given a bad reputation as being the most evilest people in the world. But remember, these are the same people that have given us the Volkswagen. These are the same people that has given us almost everything that is modern American technology. Werner von Braun was the creator of the V-2 rocket. And until the 1960s, when JFK promised the American people in his State of the Union address that a man was about to go to the moon, who helped put America on the moon? Werner von Braun, German scientists. A German scientist who developed the V-2 rocket. It's historical information like that that is completely disregarded and lost through time. And it's not even touched up upon, it's not even talked about anymore. It's just that it doesn't fit the narrative anymore. I'm sorry to say. But hopefully this video gives you more clarity of what I'm trying to touch up about, especially when it comes down to censorship on the most egregious level of them all. However, I'm not going to be the victim here. I'm just going to power through this just like I normally do when it comes down to any other of my projects as well. It's a really good video. It's a really, really good video. Something like this shouldn't be censored or should be... I'm not trying to paint myself a pretty picture. I'm just saying that, come on. I mean, it's something I just want to get to you, my audience. I mean, like I said before, when I started this video, when I started this series of Uniform der Wehrmacht, this is a project that I'm deeply embedded into, and it's something that I'm very passionate about as well because I love history, I love World War II history. And have one of my projects be taken down just because it has the word murder in it. It doesn't just sound great, it just sounds stupid. I mean, immediately Google should just have a policy of just saying that, oh, if you put anything that's German related during World War II, we're automatically going to take it down. I mean, they should just come out and just say it like that, okay? They should just come out and just automatically say it like that. But this is the battle I've chosen, and this is the war I got to fight because, yeah, this is purely on me as well because I didn't know what I was really getting myself into when I'd chosen this uniform loadout compared to just doing a regular-ass American one, but this is going to be one of those moments that's going to define me, and like I said again, I'm just going to power through it. I'm not going to let the higher-ups in YouTube get the best of me because, again, this is just one video out of, thankfully, that so many of my other videos aren't being taken down just because it just involves the word murder. And no matter how many times I tried to say it as well, this is just one of those moments in my life that's just going to define me. I'm going to do the best I can with what I got, and we're just going to power through it, and we're going to get through this. The uniform is almost complete, and most importantly of all, I'm not stopping. I'm absolutely not stopping, guys. I'm just going to power through this just like any other regular-ass project in general. So that's pretty much my update on episode 23, so don't expect it to be put on anytime later soon in the future, but this video alone will just give you more clarity of why episode 23 is missing or why you feel like you're been gypped. Believe me, I don't want to gyp any of you guys. I really, really don't. It's just that the powers that be have different control and perspective on my life, and I just got to power through it the best way I can. Like I said before, the uniform is almost complete, and lastly, all we got to do is just wait for the showcase right now. So, this is what I'm going to do. Finish the uniform, do something new, and most importantly of all, give you more historical content later on in the future. But right about now, we're just going to power through this, and until the uniform is complete, we get to offend everybody and almost everybody as much as we possibly can, because the only thing that they can actually throw at us is just call us racist. But this is a costume, nothing more, nothing less. It's a cool costume that I just want to put out in more Milsim events later on in the future. And that's pretty much what I got, guys. And be sure to keep your fingers on the triggers. Stand by to get some. And most importantly of all, I'll see you all on the battlefield. This is SKINWALKER, signing off.